Hello, everybody, and welcome to our last first-time homebuyer market update of the year. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile Real Estate, and this is our Southern California housing market update for first-time homebuyers. Here we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. That's really a lot of what we do. And kind of an interesting year, and no, we are not clickbaiting, but I think when we take a look back and we look at some of the statistics of the market, it's really interesting to see how that matches up with our perceptions and kind of give some insight maybe into some of the blind sides we have in terms of our perception versus reality when it comes to the market. And I think this really highlights the need to actually look and review this data and not just go by, quote unquote, gut feelings, right? Because a lot of times those feelings and memories are incorrect. And I'm going to show you why here. So we're going to do our normal market update, but before that, we're going to kind of do some year in review things that I think might be a little bit surprising for you and hopefully a little bit helpful for you going into 2022. Next week, we will actually be doing kind of some market predictions and preparations for 2022. So this is kind of the look back. Next week will be the look forward. So be sure to tune in for that. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got some special year in review slides for you. Let me go all the way back for these here. Okay. The first one is, let's take a look at prices in 2021 versus 2020. And I just noticed a mistake I made on here. So I'm going to circle it for everybody so you can all see it. That should be 2020. I can't even say it right. But let's take a look, right? So this is our price growth across Los Angeles and Orange counties. And as you know, one of the things that we do for our first-time home buyers is that we actually divide the market by property type, not necessarily by price range. So we do that with a single-family home that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and then a condo that is 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I think those are really kind of good market segments. And what that means is we have a much better chance of capturing the same types of properties to give us a market look. So let's focus on single families first. So our median home price went up by 13.5% across Los Angeles and Orange counties for single family 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. I want to give you a caveat, right? You might think that your parents or your friends live in a neighborhood where it clearly went up by more than that. That is certainly possible. This is across all of Los Angeles and Orange counties, but I think it's really good to get an idea of how much did the market actually move. And I think what's funny about that is that perception, right, is that number is a little bit different maybe than I think people thought it was. I think people have been operating under the assumption that number is larger. And across the whole market, it might be, but for single family 3-bedroom, 2-bath, this is where it fell. Now, this is a median number, right? That means half the house is sold for more and half the house is sold for less. One of the things that we made a habit of is actually looking at what's called the first quartile number. I explain what this is periodically. Basically, it's the median of the median. So if a median is halfway between the cheapest and the most expensive, the first quartile is halfway between the cheapest and the median. And I think that gives a really good idea of the entry level end of the market, right? I think that's what most of you might be considering, the price ranges you're looking in. And if we see something, that market actually moved 11.8%. And while that's a big number, right? On a $700,000 house, that is over $70,000 in price appreciation. So that's nothing to sneeze at. But again, I think that might be less than a number of your perceptions about the market. So kind of the first thing to look at is, I think it's interesting that the entry level of the market did not go up as much as the median did. I think that's very noteworthy and is not typical. Secondly, let's take a look at the condo numbers here, right? First off, the condo numbers are much bigger, right? Our median for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo moved 18.1%. That's a big number, folks. That's not a small number at all. I mean, that is nearly 20% price growth. I think in 2020, condos did not do nearly as well as single-family homes did. And I think a little bit of this is catch-up, right? This is the market rediscovering condos. During a pandemic, obviously, people were not interested in living in close quarters. And then if we look again at our first quartile, that number is a little bit more palatable at a 14.8%. So again, there's some good news here for entry-level home buyers. That is, the entry level of the market is not moving as fast and not moving upward as quickly as the mid-level of the market for these property types. And I think that's a really important distinction and kind of something to be happy about if you're a first-time home buyer, especially if you're a first-time home buyer who has not bought a house yet. Now, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this one time during this video because I don't want to be that guy. My goal is not to instill a sense of fear of missing out, but let's go back and look at these percentages and put some real numbers to them. If you were looking at a entry-level single-family home, you missed out on almost $100,000 of appreciation this year if you were in the entry level. Nearly $100,000. I think it was around like $78,000 or $80,000 or something like that. You know, the goal is not to make you feel bad about that, but just to kind of understand that I think in our minds, we often think that waiting is not making a decision, but waiting is actually making a decision, and it is a decision to not be in the market. Okay, so that's chart number one in review. Chart number two, we're going to take a look at entry-level single family specifically, and I wanted to look back over the last 3 years because I was kind of curious to sort of chart what our market has done looking backwards. So 2019, 7.6% of appreciation, great news. That's a very healthy number. 2020, 15.2% appreciation. Huge number, right? But look at what's interesting about this. 2021, not as much appreciation in this entry-level single-family segment across Los Angeles and Orange counties as 2020. So I'm going to repeat that again for the people in the back. Home prices did not go up in this segment as much in 2021 as they did in 2020. I think that one is kind of one that really sort of bucks our perception of the market, which was that it was very difficult and hard to buy a house. That part is totally true, but the prices did not go nearly as wild as I think they felt like they did. Now we're going to do the same thing for condos. And what I love about this is to look at how different this chart is, right? 5.5% 2019, less than single family homes if we look back here, but still a healthy number. 7.3 in 2020, really way less appreciation than we saw for single family homes. That's really important to understand. I think there was a lot of market perception, but then look at 2021, the condo market actually exceeded single family home appreciation on the entry level. I mean, and exceeded by a decent amount. I mean, it looks like around 3% difference in appreciation. You know, that's real money, right? That's a real big difference in the market. Finally, you know, I think when we do look across 3 years, I think we forget oftentimes that these are not just cumulative, but they are actually multiplicative, right? You know, your home goes up by 10% one year, and if it goes up by another 10% the next year, it's not 20% growth. It's actually like 21, 22% growth. So it's important to understand that these things are actually multiplicative. So we took a look at the past 3 years of home price performance and compared it and made it a cumulative number. So, you know, there's a couple of things that we can glean from this graph, right? Number one, 38.6% price growth on our entry-level single-family home over the last 3 years. That is a big, big number. And I don't know how to put it any other way, but that is almost a 50% increase in the home prices over 36 months. You know, we've seen a huge amount of appreciation. I do think a good portion of that might have been driven by low interest rates, but I also think that really home prices have kind of been, I think, perennially underpriced to some degree since the Great Recession. They recovered, but not really. The last 3 years have kind of been that, really returning to around places where they should be. We've done affordability graphs. If you watch our other videos, you can see affordability is not out of control. It is actually sort of in line with where we would expect from appreciation and some wage growth. But if we look here at the condos, you know, despite having a stellar 2021, condos still have not done as well as single family homes. And I think there's a couple of things that we can glean from that, right? To me, this indicates that there's still some room to go on the condo market. As we head into a higher density environment, builders are building a lot more attached housing, or even if it is detached, it is incredibly close together. I think our mix of what's in the market will skew more towards these attached properties. I think we're going to see a lot more things like this built, especially if there's some affordability initiatives. Right now, builders like building big condos because they can charge a lot more for them and the economics make more sense. I think there's going to be a lot of policy and political push towards these entry-level type condo properties to be created. So I think we might see some increase of that in the market, and I think there's some more room to go on those price-wise. Anyhow, that's kind of our little bit of our year in review. I think there's some things in there that are surprising, especially the fact that the reality is 2021 was not as big of a price jump year as 2020 was. I think if you ask anybody on the street, they will tell you the opposite, and yet it is not true, especially in the segments that entry-level home buyers are looking in. Now we're going to go through our last regular update of the year. I know this video is a little longer than usual, but I think it's worth it. What do we see? Entry-level single-family homes in the last week. Pricing did move up on that first quartile to $730,000. Entry-level condos, it technically dipped a little bit. I think you can look at the shape of both of these graphs across this year and sort of glean some information from them. If we take a look at what do these payments look like? $4,175 for entry-level single-family home, and right about $3,000 again for entry-level condo. This is once again based on 5% down. It includes mortgage insurance, property taxes, even HOA fee in the case of our entry-level condo. So we really wanted to give people realistic numbers of where the market is for these entry-level properties. Minimum household income required, that has crept up a little bit on our entry-level single-family home to $102,000 and right about $75,000 for entry-level condo. This is our 14-day absorption rate. I've talked about this in our other videos. We are setting ourselves up for a very brisk spring. We are entering a market with substantially less inventory than we entered 2021 with. I think really when you see that, if interest rates remain low, there is really only one place for prices to go, and that is upward when there is just such a dearth of supply in the marketplace. I think sales numbers might drop again as we get into this. One of the things I've talked about is how the market behaves when we're in kind of a supply constricted environment. And, the obvious thing, right, is that prices go up and it's harder to buy a house. I think a secondary thing that people don't understand is that actually, when it gets like this, the supply problem is made even worse because move-up buyers don't have a lot of confidence that they can find their next home. And when they don't have confidence, they don't put their house on the market. So their entry-level home is now not available to you, the entry-level buyer. So we kind of see this cascading effect that happens when we get into this super tight inventory market. Total inventory, we are off the charts low. And the whole market inventory is down by a lot, but in the entry-level segment, it is especially acute. I mean, we were here like 18, maybe 1,900 homes at the beginning, or let's see, where were we at the beginning of the year? On January 7th, for our entry-level condos, we had around 1,300 houses. I think we're actually trending right around 800 right now. I mean, that is a 30-40% decline. It's a little bit better off, I'd say. At our bottom, we were here at maybe 1,100 houses. I think right now we're down to around 900 for our entry-level single-family homes, so down about 20%. Really, we are in a supply-constricted market, and I think that will exist for at least the next few months. I don't see that changing unless there are just crazy drastic interest rate changes in a short period of time. Looking at our 14-day still active percentage, this is kind of another proxy for market competitiveness. Lower equals a more competitive market. And boy, this is the lowest reading we have had all year for entry-level single-family homes since we've been tracking this. Meaning that of all the homes that hit the market in the last 14 days, only about 50% of them are still available. And then for our entry-level condo, it's around 65%. That isn't a low point, but it's getting close. And then we have our week supply of homes, right? Meaning if no new homes came on the market at our current rate of homes going into escrow, how long did we have before we were out of houses and there was nothing for sale? You know, we bounced a little bit in both of these. Again, it's a holiday week, so it's a little hard to gauge some of the stuff, but about 3 weeks of inventory for single family homes, about 4.5. Look at where we were around this point last year, nearly 5 weeks of single family homes and 8.5 weeks or you know, for our entry level condo market. I mean, this really tells you all you need to know about the spring right here in one chart. This is where we are now. This is where we were a year ago. It's clearly different, and I think we are setting ourselves up for a very, very brisk spring. Well, it's the last day of 2021. I hope this has been a good year for you. If you would like to make 2022 the year that you buy a home, or if there's somebody in your life who you know should be thinking about buying a home, definitely send them in our direction. There is a link below if you're watching on YouTube where you can schedule a no cost, no obligation 15-minute consultation. We just give you information, help you make better decisions, which is really what we are about. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you see when we have new videos come out. We will see you again in 2022. Thanks, everybody.